Good afternoon, everyone. We are here for an employee background waiver hearing for September the 12th, 2024. We will let Attorney Kazay start the hearing.
Thank you, board members. I've provided you a packet for Mr. Piontek Smith. He is present, ready to go forward with this hearing. There are a couple of items I'd like to draw your attention to in the packet. I've taken because it's easier for me, I've handwritten some numbers on the lower right-hand side of each page. The recommendation from the school district is option 3, and I'm going to show you all why that is. Mr. Smith is asking for a waiver for a disqualifying offense, which is permissible under Arkansas law, and that prohibits his employment in the Little Rock School District. However, he will need to reapply for employment possibilities because in his initial application he did not disclose the disqualifying offense. So that's where we are there. And then at page 3, his disqualifying offenses are 2. One of them in July of 1991, possession of controlled substance felony, and September of 1991, assault in the first degree or attempt. That's what came back from the Department of Education on his background check. As you'll notice on page 4, this is the application that was submitted to the Little Rock School District, and at the bottom of the page you'll see the answer given was no to have you ever been convicted of a violation of law other than a minor traffic violation. And then moving ahead, on page 8, as part of his application process, Mr. Smith was brought on to the Little Rock School District and was assigned as a paraprofessional classroom aide at Southwest High School. On page 8, Mr. Maxey supports the waiver, finds Mr. Smith's work to be good and beneficial with the students. I've also included, beginning on page 9, a copy of our classified personnel employment policy, which tracks with Arkansas law, and beginning on page 12, a copy of the relevant statute for criminal records check as a condition of initial employment for non-licensed personnel. And this hearing is related entirely to item G in the statute, which is found on page 17. Beginning sort of about about a third of the way down the page, item B, or actually item 2, the waiver shall be requested no more than 30 days after receipt of the notice of denial of employment. The waiver can be requested by the hiring official, the applicant, the person subject to dismissal. And then item 4, circumstances for which a waiver may be granted shall include without limitation the following: the age at which the incident was committed, the circumstances surrounding the incident, the length of time since the incident, subsequent work history, employment references, character references, and other evidence demonstrating that the applicant does not pose a threat to the health or safety of school children or school personnel. That's the district's proposal. Mr. Smith is here, and I believe would like to address the board to discuss where he has come since 1991.
I'd like to thank everyone for allowing me this possibility of presenting myself. Since then, when I arrived in Little Rock, Arkansas, I was, I believe, 23 years old. I had a very spiritual dream that if I didn't straighten my life up, that I was going to prison. Because I was living in an environment that I was connected to new people that were doing things, and I was somewhat out there myself. And the dream was telling me that it was time to change my life and make a redirection. So I got up one day and told Mom I was Rehab Service for the Blind wanted me to come to Arkansas, and she was frightened of the South. So she said, no, you're not going down there. I told her, well, call that counselor and tell her to book that flight, and I came. I did a year at Lions World Services. After that, I went to college, I enrolled at ULR. I found a new life that I didn't know existed. I knew of it, but I never experienced it. So finally, when I started engaging in it, I eventually started volunteering at Watershed. I found that volunteering with the youth gave me a sense of a passion for giving back, because by age 13, I got hit in the head with a bat. By 16, I got hit across the face with a stick, and I walked away from all this normal and alive, and not a vegetable or dead. I had some run-ins with not being convicted, but I got charged. The paperwork was inconclusive on the charges, but I stand here today to say that I've never been to prison. I've been to holding cell. Yes, I did encounter some things that I shouldn't have been doing, but by 23, I straightened my life up. Going to college, I pledged a fraternity. I found a new life and a new way of doing things. I understood then that, what I enjoyed about hanging out with those guys was the popularity. And I understood that while going to college, there was enough popularity right there. And that eye-opening experience, along with some things that I enjoyed while I've been in high school, brought me to a new level of looking at things, a new group of people that I centered myself around, which have now developed a new family with. We're all members of the same organizations, we went to the same college, and we still check on one another 30 years later, just about. And so now become a more positive individual with a new perspective on life. The one child that my mother has that tried to do what she taught me to do, and willing to try to make an example with youth again. And I had a chance to do this for a while volunteering with the Youth Initiative Project in Granite Mountain and with the Get Ready program with Reverend Stewart. And I'm hoping to get a chance to do it again.
Any questions? Thank you, Mr. Day.
Okay.
Ready for a motion?
Yeah.
Great. I move that Mr. Smith's request for a waiver of a disqualifying offense, which prohibits his employment in the Little Rock School District, is granted. However, Mr. Smith must reapply for employment possibilities due to the falsification of the application, which is option that the administration has also recommended.
It's been moved and second that option 3 is applied to Mr. Smith. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? The motion carries. Option 3. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Smith.
I think you're free to go. You don't have to stay if you don't want to. Thank you, though.
We're a lot of fun, though.
Might be 2:30 in the morning, though. Ready?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Board members, I've circulated a packet for Mr. McArthur Newby, who is in a very similar situation as Mr. Smith was. The recommendation from the district is the same on page 2 for option 3. The issue at hand is that in the application process, the prior criminal matters were not disclosed. On page 3, those criminal matters came back from a background check from the Department of Education. and there are 3 of those. They are separated by a span of 4 years total. In 2002, there were 2 charges, one manufacturing or delivery of controlled substances. The second charge in 2002 was aggravated unlawful use of a weapon, and that's on or about the person. Illinois law, and I am not licensed in Illinois, so I am not pretending to know the nuances of Illinois law, but in reading the statute, that offense is somewhat broad on how it's construed. In 2006, there was a domestic battery charge, and all of these charges came out of Illinois. As you'll see on page 4 at the bottom of the page, in the application, have you ever been convicted of a violation of law other than a minor traffic offense? The answer was no on the application. And like in Mr. Smith's circumstance, on page 9, Ms. Stephanie Walker-Hines, the Director of Child Nutrition, supports the waiver requested by the applicant and an opportunity to offer him employment that aligns with his personal and professional goals. At the bottom of page 9 and spilling over to page 10, there is a written statement, I believe, from Mr. Newby explaining sort of his background, and I believe he wants to testify to the board also to give a sense of his story and why he's seeking the waiver. And like in the other packet, beginning on page 11 is simply a copy of the personnel policy for classified employees, and beginning on page 14, a copy of the statute on disqualifying offenses. And again, on page 19, those same factors apply. The age at which the incident was committed, the circumstances surrounding the incident, the length of time since the incident, subsequent work history, employment references, character references, and other evidence demonstrating that the applicant does not pose a threat to the health or safety of school children or school personnel. Mr. Newby's position would be with child nutrition. With that, that's all I have.
Okay. Mr. Newby?
Thank y'all for having me. When I had caught those cases when I was young, I had caught the drug case and the gun case, but I was homeless then. You know, I had dropped out of school. I should have went to the military. I ain't never go to the military, but they ended up giving me boot camp. But I ended up violating that. So that's the reason why I had went to prison. The domestic battery, that happened on my birthday, but I didn't do it. It was 2 females, my first baby mama and some other girl. They was fighting, and police, we had words, and they told me to go to sleep. So I laid down to sleep. I was drunk. I laid down, went to sleep. I woke up. I was in handcuffs. They took me to the county, did my little time there, got released from there, went to court. They threw the case out. So I don't know why it was still on my background. Right now, no, then I had started working at Mr. Shoes. It was a clothing store. I was up there for like 8.5 years. And then my mom, she stayed down here, and one of her lungs collapsed. So I had to leave Chicago and come down here to take care of her. Since I've been down here, I've been working at Waffle House. And I have been at Waffle House since 2016. And I got promoted up there, became a rock star, 3rd shift supervisor. I've been looking for work for like a year now. So right now, during that time, I had decided to, because I know it's been over 20 years, so I was like, well, let me look this up. So I went online, I looked up how to get a pardon from the government, and I had called the parole board up there, and they sent me the paperwork. I got my paperwork for me to start the process of getting the pardon, my whole record pardon right now. I'm taking care of 10 kids. So,
Say that again.
taking care of 10 kids. My youngest is 2. My fiance, she has 6 of her own. And we share one together. And I have 3 in Chicago right now. 2 just graduated high school. One on his way, he trying to play sports. I'm just looking for a chance to just keep working.
Any questions? Entertain a motion.
I move that the LRSD board approve option 3, that Mr. Newby's request for a waiver of a disqualifying offense which prohibits his employment in the Little Rock School District is granted. However, Mr. Newby must reapply for employment possibilities due to falsification of the application.
It's been moved and properly second that we go with option 3 for Mr. Newby. Any other questions, comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Newby.
Take care of those 10 kids. It's okay.
Oh, it's on here, it's Tuesday.
There you go. Mm-hmm. All right. Yes. That's all too.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Without opposition, we are adjourned. So we'll open our special board meeting. Call to order for the special board meeting for September the 12th, 2024. Do we have any citizen communication comments? Oh, good. So we can move on. Director Callaway.
I move that we go into executive session.
Move that we go into.
To, okay,
Good.
let's read number 3. Okay, I move that we go into executive session to, a superintendent resignation and possible discipline of an elected official.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We go into executive session. Without opposition, we are in an executive session.
I got it locked down there.
All right, we're back from the executive session.
I move that we come out of executive session where no actions were taken. Is there a motion to consider?
Yeah. The chair would entertain a motion. The chair would entertain a motion.
I move that the LRSD Board of Education not accept the superintendent August 15th resignation.
Second.
Any questions, comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? The motion carries.
Also, that deserves applause.
The LRSD Board of Education and Superintendent Dr. Jamal Wright have engaged in fruitful, productive, and reflective conversations over the last several weeks regarding his August 15th resignation. We are now able to announce that the board and Dr. Wright have come to an agreement to continue working together to reimagine LRSD. At the conclusion of the 2024 school year, the board and the superintendent will conduct the routine annual evaluation process and determine if any changes will be made to his current employment contract. The board and superintendent would also like to thank the Little Rock community for your feedback during this process. Thank you.
Yay!
Anna, you have another motion? Chair will entertain a motion.
I move that the district suspend any formal or informal relationship with Upward Bound Trio program pending internal investigations related to the discipline of a board member.
Second.
It's been moved by Anna Strong, second by Leanne Wilson. Any questions, comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. The board is investigating a possible violation of code of conduct and a possible violation code of ethics by a board member. So we will gather additional information. Thank you. All right, move on to what's next on the agenda? Adjournment?
So moved.
Without opposition, we are adjourned. Move on to the agenda meeting. Ready?
All right. First on our agenda for this meeting is some academic updates from Melissa Goody and our academic team. I'm not sure if you're going to be by yourself or. Melissa Goody and team.
All right, so good evening. We are going to spend the next little bit of time just reviewing some changes in our early literacy and early math assessment plan for the year. These are state changes and they are aligned to, they are aligned to requirements in the law. So I wanted to spend a minute here just making sure we're all on the same page with what are the implications when it comes to our early literacy and early math assessment plans in connection to LEARNS. So in blue, we've highlighted all of the changes. And so these are the things we'll spend a little bit of time talking about. So first of all, the literacy screener, which our teachers, students have been engaged in. The window opened August 28th. They're about done. Some things to say about that in a little bit. We have individual reading plans. This is a new part of the law where every child not meeting expectations or what the screener is calling at risk will have individual reading plans that will be populated. We'll talk a little bit more about that. In that reading plan will be specific requirements around interventions for students. Finally, there's a parent notification piece. So in the parent portal, parents will have the opportunity and the ability to access data from the screeners and the assessments, and also then the individualized reading plans. And finally, wanted to make sure that we all are on the same page with the piece and learns that talks about third grade retention, right? And so we have to keep our eye on that. That goes into effect school year 25-26. So this year's second grade kiddos are those that we're thinking about, right? So finally, just a note in there, there's stuff coming around a math plan, but we don't know a ton about that at this point, but we do know that it is in LEARNs and a requirement. Not gonna go over all of these, you had these in advance, but this just kind of sets the stage with like, you know, what are all the pieces for literacy and for math. I do wanna spend just a minute here on these three things because these are really the meat and potatoes of what's new for us this year. And it's quite a bit, right? So the screener's new. We have testlets, we'll talk about what that means here, that's new. And these individualized reading plans are new. And so to dive in a little bit more, when we think about the screener and we think about like, you know, what will kids be assessed on? Every single grade level has what is called a blueprint, right? Which really looks like this. And it tells teachers, tells staff, right? Tells anyone what would in this case, first grader be assessed on, right? So you don't have to look at all the details here, but down the left-hand column in blue are all of the areas that will be assessed about their alphabet knowledge, phonemic awareness, are they hearing sounds, sound symbol correspondence, right? You see the rest of those. So it gives a really clear picture of, you know, on the screener, in the middle of the year on the interim, and at the end of the year on the summative, what is assessed, how many questions, right? So really provides a pretty clear picture. And I think honestly can also be just a teaching tool for teachers, right? Like as a first grade teacher, these are all of the areas that a first grader needs to shore up, right? So it makes that really explicit. Once kiddos take that screener, right, then we're gonna get data back that says that they're not at risk or they're at risk, right? Pretty simple, right? At risk means that there are areas where they need more scaffolding and support. But the screener is designed to be pretty big picture, right? Like a kid is on track or they're not, they're at risk or they're not. And then what happens is, and this is a very new thing for all of us and new for folks across the state, what happens is they flag in a certain area and then they get administered a series of testlets, right? Just like it sounds, it's like a mini test to get more specific. So in this case, if a child flagged in the area of phonemic awareness, then we would want to drill down and say, well, what is it that they don't know in phonemic awareness? And so there are testlets in each of these categories. Is it that they don't know how to isolate initial, middle, and ending sounds? Is it they don't know how to blend or segment CVC words? So these testlets teachers give as follow-ups to get more diagnostic information about what a child needs. Finally, the other big and new piece is just kind of a visual of what this individualized reading plan looks like, right? So at the top, the data from the screener and those mini follow-up tests will populate, right? It'll say, here's how, you know, child is doing, and then that bottom part is where this individualized plan and our teachers come in, because that's the place where each and every teacher for children who are deemed at risk, this individualized reading plan needs to be completed, right? Parents will be able to access this. Obviously, teachers will be using this to track and monitor. And so there's a lot of potential here, right? A lot of potential to get super granular around where kids are, what they need, but also want to be very real and say this is a lot of new things, right, rolling out for folks. And so we have quite a lot of key actions and timelines that we've already been working on and things that we'll be doing across the year to support people, whether it's training around the assessments, the testlets, the intervention plans, the reading plans. You know, you can see across the year there are key benchmarks and things for us to accomplish. And in here, also just want to share that while there is a lot of potential in providing specific skills that students need, there also have been a lot of hiccups, right? Students have taken the screener and overwhelmingly we have heard that it's taken way longer than it was supposed to. And so, you know, we've been responsive and want to give all of our teachers and school-based folks a shout out because, you know, they've held it together, and it's easy to get frustrated, but that doesn't help students either. And so, you know, our staff has been wonderful in making this work. And also want to note that the State Department has sent quite a lot of people into our buildings. Both folks who work at the state and the assessment vendor have been there to monitor and watch children interact with the assessment. They've heard a lot of feedback. A lot of it hasn't been great, but they've heard us and are working to make this better. Anytime you roll out a new assessment, it's a lot. And you know, we did this statewide. So like, this is a big deal. We're a big district, and I think we are trying to, you know, stay responsive to the continual updates about how to make this work. But the point of today was to bring you up to speed, because when we get data, and I think it'll be for the November work session, but of course pending, when we get data, we wanted you to know where it was coming from, right? So kiddos have taken this screener. They haven't started taking the testlets yet. Those will start, those follow-up mini assessments will start in October. But I wanted you to know, and we wanted you to know, you know, when we look at data, this is what we're talking about. So we're not doing MAP anymore. It's not on the table anymore. The NWEA assessment, this takes the place of those assessments, and this is a statewide initiative. So I'm happy to answer questions. I hope I provided enough context to at least kind of set the stage, but what questions can we answer?
So, all the districts all over the state
Correct.
are getting ready to do it.
Yep.
And those are the timelines.
Well, I think these, to be clear, President Mason, these are, I was trying here just to lay out, like, across the year, these are the timelines that we have set. I think if you want to know the timelines for the assessment, I did skip it. There is a screener that we're doing now, right? Supposed to be done in the first 30 days of school. It didn't open until August 28th. And so, you know, it's open till September 27th, but most of our schools are done or getting there. We have an interim that's mid-year, so that'll be, y'all, what are the dates? Is it end of December? Before we go on break? Okay, I think so. We've changed it so many times. The interim is like right before we go on the holiday break, and then the summative would be end of year, you know, end of April, beginning of May. So that's the timeline, President Mason.
Mr. Mason.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Is it okay if I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So is this, forgive me if I'm mixing up two things, but I know you've come and talked to us before about using data to get teachers together, to talk about what they've learned. Is this the data we will now be using to do that, or, so I guess that's my first question.
Yeah.
Is this the data you will use to do that for K through 3?
Yeah, so this will be a major data source. I mean, I never want to also discount the importance of classroom assessments, but in terms of like the common assessment that everyone is giving, absolutely. And I think that's the whole idea behind these individualized reading plans, is that, you know, when you start to intervene on skills that kids, you know, need additional support with, I mean, once you master one, there's going to be another one that's in the hopper ready to work with them around. And so that's the goal of the individualized reading plan, is to start to track and monitor based on what these screeners are telling us.
So I asked this question for a board governance reason, which is, I know we already set our calendar in April, which looks like it might have been before all the timeline on all this was released, but do the days that we put in our calendar for time off for teachers to do that collaborative planning work that are part of our transition from days to minutes, do those days line up with times when we will have this data back and be able to use that for our younger learners? No? Sorry.
I mean, the first one was.
Sorry, I was just asking, these are.
It's a great question.
Kiddo's a second grader.
It's a great question, and
I'm living through this.
Yeah. And I think part of, you know, the dates have been changing for us
Right,
too. Like, we
right.
thought we were gonna start like right away when school started.
You've
That
got a
is
whole
the
chorus of people back here, like, with lots of people.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was the goal, right?
I'm just, asking
But-
how we can do better.
But I
guess,
think
as
to
a
your
board. Yeah,
point,
yeah.
we do have those data days built in, and
Right.
this will be a very important source of data for our teachers to be understanding and responding to. This is what, you know, when we think about that third grade retention data, that's gonna come from this end of year summative. So like, you know, we have this year to practice and start to digging in and using this information to drive what we're doing in the classroom. And I don't mean practice in a you know, but the summative is gonna be what counts for kids at the end of the year, so, yeah.
Well, please keep us updated as y'all know more about, I would just say, as y'all know more about how this plays out timeline-wise and how we can, I know we're supposed to be talking about going out to the community and talking about calendars, and this all plays into that too, to make sure that it works for both educators, families, and, you know, for,
Yeah, yeah, great question, thank you.
Director Adams. Director Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Mason. And thank you for this, and kudos to all the people who are doing the hard work and to all the adjustment. I wonder, Ms. Goody, if you could, since this is such a huge change, and I think it'd be good for me, perhaps other board members and other people who are tuning in, but could you walk us through what it's gonna look like next year on this, what we know about this third grade retention process? You know, what it's gonna look like, and how will we know, what kind of preparations we'll have to try to have people not have to experience that, but if they do, when will we know, and how that can be communicated, and that kind of thing?
That's a lot.
That's a great question. I mean, Mr. Allen, in short, I'm gonna say what we do know is we do know that we're talking about this year's second graders. And so I think, you know, we have had our eye on that for the last couple of years since we got the information to say, you know, what are we starting to think about with first graders last year and second graders this year, and starting to think intentionally, because if we wait till next year, that's, you know, it's too late. Like it's gotta be a K-2 conversation, which is what I think we are collectively have been working on, shoring up. But in terms of, unless y'all have missed something, but I don't know that we know like when we will know for sure. I mean, I do know this, it will be this assessment that's used. And so when we think about, you know, right now, looking at where kids are flagging and where we're needing to provide interventions, we'll know every time they take this assessment who's at risk. And those are the students that independent reading plan, or sorry, individualized reading plan, that's who those are geared towards. The whole point of that is if you have been flagged as at risk, right, we are now on, right, tracking your growth and intervening where you need support. And so, I mean, I can say that we already will have that information this year and be able to start, you know, responding to it. But I'll for sure relay whatever we hear, you know, and when we'll know, because I think that's important.
And just to follow up to that, so what would be the timing? You said this will be the assessment that will let us know. So when would that last assessment that's gonna let us know, when will that be given, and when will we have the results?
So the window this year is, I think it starts in April into May. I think that's right. Change something. And then results. I mean, I think this year we think everything's going to be pushed back, and I'm hoping to bring data in November. But I don't want to promise that. But I think next year, after doing it this year, I mean, if that last summative assessment is going to inform who gets retained, we will have to know that early, you know, right at the end of the school year. That hasn't been communicated, but that's what I would anticipate when we would have to know that information.
Thank you.
Sorry, I don't have more.
You can only have what you have.
All right. Another question,
Well,
Director
I was
Wilson?
kind of gonna piggyback off what Director Adam said about the third grade retention piece, and I don't know, does LEARNS, or is there any kind of mechanism for parents who want to move their child forward even if they're not meeting the literacy requirement, because we know there's a social emotional development piece that happens with staying with kids your age? And do we know that yet?
I don't.
Okay.
But point taken. I mean, yes.
Rumors of an appeal process.
Okay, that's.
You're going to come up to.
I'm sorry. I have heard heard rumors of an appeal process, and there are some stipulations and some things that you can apply for, and there are certain supposedly mitigating circumstances, whether it is, maybe a reading disability or something else
Okay.
that would be able to have this child transition on. But that's all it's been very
Okay.
broad strokes as to what that might look like, so, I mean, but, yeah.
Okay. I have one more question about the literacy assessment, because my understanding of that is it's based on kind of their skill level. It's not like a dyslexia screener or anything like that.
It does count actually as a level 1 screener.
Okay, okay.
So this serves the purpose of being a level 1 screener. There are additional level 2 screeners that we have to follow up but yeah.
Director Wright?
Director, right?
I mean, excuse me.
Been promoted.
Superintendent Wright. Excuse me. You got promoted.
I don't want to, Ms. Goody and the team, they're being very, very gracious. I just want to be clear, I want the board to be clear that this team and others who aren't here they've spent a lot of time this summer, last year, this summer, planning, rolling out things. We wanted to, start off this year very, very strong, having a clear plan and path. And really, everything got upended in July. And she probably wouldn't say that, but I'm going to say it. A lot of this information is new. A lot of it has not been communicated to us, and so we are doing the absolute best we can with the information that we have. And I do want to, again, echo the kudos to our staff, because we know this has been extremely frustrating in some regards. But folks, as I've been out this week, as soon as I walk in an elementary building, the first thing the principal says is, "Oh my gosh, do you know how long these screeners are taking?" And so it has been a frustrating experience for many people. But this team and our staff are doing the absolute best they can. But just know that we don't have a lot of answers to a lot of the questions that you may be asking, because it hasn't been communicated to us yet.
We have a lot of questions too.
Y'all are doing great.
Yeah.
I have just one more, Mr. Mason, if that's okay.
That's fine. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm just gonna be real honest with you. I'm a mom of a second grader, and I had not really thought about this until just right now that, like, I am on the hot seat right here. So that being said, I do think, I know we all got that big, long letter that was like, this new test is happening. I guess it didn't click for me that this was so important in the what happens at the end of next year. I know I feel confident about my kid. He's a great reader, even if he doesn't love it yet. But that being said, are you communicating at a very simple literacy level to families about what these test results mean, or planning to as they come out throughout the rest of the year? Because, love that little one-pager thing, but, I don't know what phonetic awareness is. I'm
No idea
serious.
what that
I was a
means.
math major in college like that. I don't really know what that means. But, are there things that I can be doing as a mom that, besides reading to my kid at night and making sure we're moving on to, he should be reading the level 3 little books at the library or what? This makes me sound stupid probably, but
No, it
are there
doesn't.
other things that you can be giving to parents to help us work toward this and understand the consequences if our kids aren't there? And then secondly, are we able to handle the increase in dyslexia referrals that may come out of this? Are we kind of prepared for that? Those are my two questions. And I know that I know that y'all are just rolling with this as it comes to you, so.
We've absolutely had the conversation about dyslexia referrals.
Okay.
Have a plan for figuring out how to get an influx of level 2 screeners that we might have to do. So I can say that we know and we're thinking about that. To your first question, I actually did not share this, so thanks for queuing this up. Part of the individual reading plan has a portion on there where it says resources for parents. Okay. So part of what teachers will be charged to do is not only to identify the specific intervention they'll do, but also then to identify things that can happen in the home with families. And so we have worked on some intervention resources for teachers. Some of those can easily be done in the home. And so we have some resources that we're sharing with staff so that they're not just left to figure it out, but that these are things that would go in alignment to each of those categories. Here's something families could do at home. so that they'll be ready to share that, but.
Thank you. You guys are amazing. Thanks for rolling.
All right.
Thanks for all the work you've done. It's amazing. Thanks so much. We appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All right, yeah, thanks.
We are, Chief Deputy, you up. Well,
Because I was scared, and then I got it, so it just sent it to the lake. I'm now at 34, I'm reading on my ACT. Once I got it, I got it. I don't think I like this.
You don't like this one?
I don't grinding.
Think about it, you know, we went,
Wasn't there a
Mr. Mason.
thriving one, Mr. Bailey?
I know, we're we trying?
so we've been from surviving to thriving, something else. Last year was reimagining. I think it was reimagining. I think that's what I had on here. This one was a grind.
Hey.
So it may change before the next presentation, but today was grinding. Sort of where we are right now, we'll run through here. So this is kind of preliminary piece on here. I just ran our personnel budgeting this afternoon, so we had a lot of changes up this upcoming year with school closures and opening them up as well. So anytime you close a middle school and you have Cloverdale and Baseline, we opened up Lacey, we combined West with Hall. A lot of changes, a lot of network changes as well, realignment. So we had a lot of personnel changes out there. So we had a lot of vacancies, different positions we had to clean up. So assistant superintendents, they worked diligently with their schools as well. I've called each school probably twice as well to make sure we're down to kind of the nitty gritty. So that's why we're grinding. So, all right. This is just my focus statement. I typically put on these. This is my mantra that I kind of work by. So I think my support staff as well. So this is what our goal is always to do and try to achieve. So the budgetary factors we've looked at this year and past years. So we're going to look at our previous fiscal year end results along with enrollment projection, current student accounts, and I'll show you that on Excel. We'll jump out of this PowerPoint and get into some other details shortly. But current and future economic condition, what our tax assessments look like. And for those that, some of this y'all have heard, some people hadn't heard it. So the school structure, school improvement requirements and the initiatives we need to look at there. Employee salaries and benefits. This includes things like classified and certified salary schedules. We didn't make many adjustments this year, but one thing we do kind of have on the horizon is wellness policies and stipend enhancements. Administrative initiative and strategic plans. That includes any board goals, superintendent initiative, department administrators' suggestions, additional debt service. Of course, we issued another $100 billion of actual bonds out there, so that creates additional debt service payments and then new legislation. So we know we have the LRSD Act, and I think Director Johnson sent something out about the CISA funding piece that'll be discussed, I think, next legislative session. So that'd be something we kind of look at as well. So
Is that,
go ahead.
I'm breaking or?
Oh no, you can ask. This is open. This discussion. This is a work session. Y'all are just sitting up there with this is a session to talk.
Is the CISA, is that how they're talking about redoing adequacy? Is that what that is?
It's a possibility, so
Okay.
it's not here yet. So I think in 25, during the, I guess the fiscal session, maybe to discuss at that point.
Full session in January.
Will it? Okay, yep. That's 25, so yep. So I think I sent some out to you all as well, so some weights out there. We'll kind of look at that and not sure how it's gonna, totally affect the district, so. But other budgetary factors we look at, of course, we look at LRSD staffing standards formula. ESSA funding sunset, it was a cliff last year, it's a sunset, so we're coming to the end. We're at the end. We've expended all our ESSA funds right now. Network structure, of course, that rolled out last year. We had some, you laughing about the network? Okay, okay. Okay, but we had some realignment this year, a lot of realignment, so, looking at, Dr. Wright and I shared a proposal to, reduce the budget, so that was a part of it. Textbooks adoptions are always major. Textbooks have really grown as far as the cost of it, so this year was a major adoption with middle school social studies and CTE, about 4.6 million. I think next year, I forgot what next year's adoption is. He told me, but I didn't write it down, but literacy, okay, all right, well, I got the people back there, y'all know how. All right, thank you. But facility improvements and furniture, fixture, and equipment, these are some of the things that we continued on. Of course, we opened up Dr. Marion G. Lacey Cade Academy, and we're still working on the athletic field there. Had to purchase a lot of stuff there. Central High School Science Addition and Field House, if you hadn't been by there, is going very well, just about there on the field house, so we're purchasing those FF&E things. Rockefeller Early Childhood, I mean, it's amazing as well. I see it every day because I dropped my three-year-old off there. So, Little Rock West High School, that's going well. Drive by those sites, and of course, Dunbar windows. If you hadn't been by Dunbar, the windows look amazing. We're doing some work there, and of course, we have a new roof there. Another one that's kind of on the horizon, Parkview Auditorium. We're kind of wrapping around the design on that, so we'll be bringing that to the board here probably in the next few months. So, and we have a lot of other things, but these are some of the major ones we have here. So. As we look at our FY25, I said property assessment, but really FY25, where we're actually going to reap our tax revenue from, it comes from our 2023 current assessed values, and our current assessed values for the district are about $4.7 billion. So 4.7 billion. So that's an increase of about almost 6% growth over last year, fiscal year. So we want to make sure we see that property appreciation. Thank you all for paying your taxes out there as well. So, but this is how it's made up. Real estate makes up about 3.4 billion. You have almost another billion in personal property, that's your boats, planes, and different stuff like that, ATVs, and utility and public service property makes up about 278 million there. So we talk about millage all the time. People may not know what a mill is. So basically 1 mill is 1/10 of a cent. So if you have a house valued at $100,000, it's going to be assessed at 20%. That equates to $20,000 assessment. So we take that assessment times that 1 mill, that equates to $20 that comes to the district. So we have 46.4 mills, so you can multiply that times 46.4. So basically taxes levied on $100,000 times 46.4 mills, your taxes you're paying in Little Rock is $928. So you have other taxes in the city of Little Rock that goes towards other entities, but that's the portion that goes toward the Little Rock School District. So basically 1 mill for our tax base produces about 4.7 million in a perfect environment where 100% payment, but we typically have about a 96 to 98% collection rate out there. So, and these are the breakdowns of the different rates out there. So we have 32 mills for maintenance operation. That's keeping the lights on, that's paying your salaries, buying pencils, paper, and things like that. We also have 12.4 mills for debt service. So it produces, as you can see, about $58 million. So our debt service is around 20 million, is going up to 26 million. So that excess funds our other maintenance operations. So, and we have 2 dedicated mills for maintenance operation and capital outlay. Those are used for our maintenance crew, and half goes to the maintenance and half goes toward technology for all the software and different Chromebooks and different other things we supply around the district. So about 9.4 million. And stop me at any time. Dr. Wright, you had something? Okay. Moving right along. School funding. This is our actual school funding. So it's based on the enrollment. So we look at October 1st of last year enrollment, and we'll true it up based on October 1st of 2024. So per pupil. So this is the school's ability, the autonomy to actually allocate amongst the categories they see. This doesn't include their salaries and benefits. This is for the normal things they would typically buy in the school. So early childhood, P3, P4, $100. Elementary, K5, 100. Middle, and they typically have more consumables. Middle school, 90, and high school's 90. High schools also get a PSAT, $20 per 9th grader, along with all levels get additional $20 to help with library as well, replenishing. And teachers actually, K through 6 teachers get allocated $500 for their consumables. It was called Act 1573. We utilize a software called Class Wallet, so they get reimbursed, so they can actually go out on that portal and actually spend those funds. So other funding pieces out there, so, yes.
There was a thing, the PSAT,
yes.
that, I've never noticed that
It's
before.
pre-SAT, so they get that to actually help with testing and
Okay.
preparation and things like that, so we have it kind of built in there to our budget, so per.
So it's not if the kids take the PSAT?
No, it's
to
just,
help
it's
us
based on
prepare.
all ninth graders, so
Okay.
every ninth grade at Central, we have to make an allocation there, so, yeah,
Everybody doesn't
yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think so. It
And
wasn't
these
the same
probably
one.
need to increase on next year with inflationary, costs out there, so we'll look at that too. But another part we do as well, for middle schools, we have 2,000 built in for the journalism and 4,000 for high school on journalism. Excuse me. Title I, of course, is out there. Mostly, you have the regular Title I and 1003A, and you have the other various special needs categoricals, ESA, ELL, ALE, ABC, and we'll hit some of those highlights a little bit later. We won't have the acronyms here. I'm gonna spell them out later before y'all get on me too much. Local revenue, we pretty much have budgeted this out. I did, and I'll show you, we had that, you saw earlier, about 5.72% increase over the assessed value. We put a rise about 4% over what our collection was for last year. A little conservative approach, but typically I would have probably stayed at 3%. We need probably 4% on this one, so I think it is very realistic to collect those out there. So this is kind of what we're looking at for FY25. It's pretty significant out there. So increase interest on investments, we actually probably doubled that this past year. Interest rates may be falling based on projections, so we may be able to collect a little bit more than that, but all that is typically our interest on our capital improvement funds. As far as our state revenue, this is our state revenue is actually calculated here, so we have foundation funding, which is the biggest part of our actual revenue. Equates to about a little over $38 million, but it's based on $7,771 of state aid times your 3/4 average ADM, but a portion of that is actually generated by your local tax revenue, and we'll see that in another spreadsheet. But our 3/4 average for last year was $19,785, almost $786, and it equates to that $38,479,000. And that's one of the things in that CISA that was actually changing, so you'll see a little bit, it's a little bit different, so. Go ahead, Ms. Strong. Oh, okay.
I'm just looking through the presentation.
Okay. And this presentation was done probably an hour or so ago. I updated right before the board meeting. That's why you don't have it, so we're down, yeah. But alternative learning environment, you see I'm spelling them out on here, so it's 5,086 per student identified. We identified almost 131 students, so that funding is almost 665,000. We did have a slight increase in that, so they identified more students over the previous year, so that went up about 100,000, so that's good. When I first started in the district, we were getting about $2 million, and that funding has dropped quite a bit, so they don't currently have as many students there, but we're working to try to make sure we identify all those students for that amount of time to make sure that we don't lose any of that funding. English language learning, this is one that's grown since I've been here quite a bit, so we're typically around $1 million, and we have 1.1 million on here. We have identified a little over 3,000 students typically in this funding source here. Enhanced Student Achievement Funding used to be called NSLA, ESA, so currently 1,076 per student because we're 70% or more free and reduced. That equates to times the 14,318 students we identified, comes up to about 15.4 million, and we also have something called ESA matching. So when you're spending your actual ESA money in those before and after school programs, early childhood, or tutors, they actually give you additional, it's called ESA matching, and we're projecting to be about 950,000, but it can only be spent in those actual categories there. In professional development, it's 3750 times your 3/4 ADM, which is about 741,000. Any questions so far? All right, we're gonna roll on. So state revenue continued on here. So we have declining enrollment. So we did have a declining student population on last year. For this year, our declining enrollment, and this is basically a soft landing what the state gives you, keep you from having to make drastic cuts when you have those declining enrollment, and same with growth as well. But we're gonna be right at about 900,000. Of course, you know, the previous year we had a big dip, so we actually had almost, we had 1.9 million. That's what's highlighted in yellow. So that's the kind of difference there. So we have a loss of about $1 million in that funding, but they won't continue to give you that amount if you don't have, you know, the same amount of loss there. So LEARNS Act, I'm happy about this. We're still receiving our 4.4 million, so we didn't do anything to mess that up. All right. So y'all have asked about that as well, but we also have a new funding source called Education Compensation Reform. So it was basically about 185 times a population. It was only probably, I don't know, maybe 20 or so districts that wasn't receiving this funding. And this was kind of out of the blue that we received this, so I'm happy to actually get that 807,000 on this one. So
that's new.
it's new, it's green.
Okay.
It's green, so yeah. So we also had property insurance premium offset. So insurance premiums, you can see from the FY25, FY23 to FY24, they doubled. So the governor actually stepped in and helped districts out for 1 year. So that was 469,000 that was added last year for us. That was a one-time thing, so it's not there anymore. So we lose out on that funding piece, but you can see our premium did go down a little bit. Arkansas was hit, you know, with tornadoes, a lot of hail damage, and different other storms that's come through there, so everybody's premium is going up. Enhanced transportation funding, that's typically around the 16,000, not much movement on that one, so.
Mr. Bailey, before you leave
Yes,
this slide, would you remind us, the LEARNS Act for the teacher salary is about $4.4 million, but remind us the total that, once we adjusted our salary scale and what was the total that we ended up having to add to that in order to give everybody, you know, the appropriate salary range?
Yeah, I think for us it was around 7 million, 7.3 or something, if my memory serves me correctly on that. So of course we went above and beyond. We actually left in educational, you know, ranges along with the experience steps. So you have a lot of districts out in the state that actually the experience steps might be 1 through 10 and they're all at 50,000. So they didn't differentiate between experience along with education as well. So we left the BA, BA 12, BA 24, the masters, BA 36, and those ranges out there. So it did cost a little bit more. We had plans, you know, to get to 48,000 anyway at that time. So yes, sir.
So just to be clear, the $7 million was in addition to that?
No, it was another 3 million or so.
So the total it cost us to do the
7,
salary adjustments was around $7 million.
Yeah.
And then they paid for, so we had to pay about
It was
$3 million.
at least 7.3. It might have been 7.5.
So we had to pay around $3 million in
Additional.
addition to what we got from the state. So the
That's
state
right.
didn't cover the whole part of it for us to be able to keep the salary scale. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
That's fair.
Okay.
To keep our salary scale the way we want it.
Right.
We could have made it with the 4.4,
Right.
but I don't think our teachers would have liked it.
But we still compressed it a little bit, did we not?
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Just between experience steps. So yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to get a review just from my own sake too. Thank you.
you're welcome. Good question. So state revenue for FY25. This is just a recap, kind of where we are. I think I covered some of this, but we're looking at about 38.4 for foundation funding. Uniform rate of tax return, that's based on us not collecting all that 98%. So we put in about 750,000 that the state would actually kick in if we fell below that 98% of collection rate. ALE, like I said, about 665,000. You can see the English language learners, along with the ESA, professional development, and the other piece of vocational. Exceptional children, we're still working out on that funding source, so that's why it's kind of highlighted in yellow. And our ABC, early childhood, we actually get 2 funding pieces. A portion of it is state, which is about $1.5 million, another portion is federal, about 4.9, to make up that whole thing. And adult education, we went up on adult education about 150,000, I believe, this year, so to 792,000. So that pretty much makes up our state revenue. General operating expenditures, these are for FY24. Like I said, we just ran the salaries and benefits this afternoon, so we're still plugging those things in. We'll work on that tomorrow and the rest of next week to try to get those all lined out. It's a lot of different adjustments you have to make based on categorical funding. We've expended pretty much all our categorical funding over the past year, so we didn't have much of a rollover. So that's something we'll be adjusting quite a bit. But this is just a recap base, and I'll attach this for you all too. Federal revenue, most of those identified. I didn't put a dollar amount. I put a dollar out there, so we will have more than a dollar. That's why it's highlighted there. But these are the categories that we have out there. So they're going through to make sure we have the correct amounts for all those title programs. So these are the major programs we typically have: Title I, Title II, and I've kind of given you a description on the side what they are: Title III, and so on down there. So some of the ones new at the bottom here: Renew America School. We have the $300,000 prize money, so we're going through that next phase through an ASHRAE 2 audit, and it's a phase 2 and a phase 3. So the next phase is about $750,000. Last phase is $10.4 million, so about $11 million in all. So hopefully we're successful. We have weekly calls on that one with the Department of Energy, the segment of that. So it's quite intensive. So they give you one task a week to go through. So we also have National Park Service grant. If you've gone by Central, you've seen some of those windows being replaced at Central. So we've been successful on 4 of those grants, about $750,000 apiece. So you get a chance to knock out anywhere between 15 to 20 windows at a time on the front facade. So it's a lot of windows there. So we'll continue to write those grants. EPA as well. So that's the electrification of the buses. So we have that about $10 million of the 25 buses that will be coming within our district. And then we also are working on a magnet grant as well. So, and that's getting a little traction. This kind of just shows the, I meant to show you something else. Back on operating, I meant to touch on that. You can kind of see how the percent of our salaries and benefit, what makes up our operating expenditures, and this is for the past year. So we're still running in the 70% range, about 73% or so. And you can see the other pieces out there, the purchase services along with materials and supplies.
Mr. Bailey?
Yes, ma'am.
Go back to Carl Perkins. How much, it's nothing listed.
Oh, I just had them listed. I'll actually have them all listed for you on the next one. So these are just in the major categories. So we're still working on to make sure we have, yes, ma'am. Okay. So we still get all these funding sources here. So we do have some other grants. If you actually look at our grant page, it's I think on the audit it's probably 2 pages.
Mr. Bailey, on the salaries
Yes.
and benefits, it seems to me that I had a memory, maybe this was from when I served on the board before, that number was more closer to 80%. Has that changed over time, or am I
It
remembering
changed a little
incorrectly?
bit because we're not required to pay as much toward health insurance.
Uh-huh.
Of course, retirement went up, but yeah, it fluctuated a little bit at times. So yes,
So were we at closer to 80% at one point?
we were. Yeah, we cut a lot of salary, not salary, but personnel out of the budget too. So you'll see that we've gone from about 4,200 employees down to 3,200, 3,300. So over the years.
Thank you.
Where was that? Federal programs, we're not quite as high on salaries. They spending quite a bit on purchase services. Students directly or outsourcing some of those with tutoring programs and different things like that, whatever it might be in that scenario. So just a synopsis here. This is our fund balance and operating. So I know y'all been anticipating this one now. So for fiscal year 2020, we were running fairly lean in the early 2020s. So 2021, roughly around about 20 million. We did make some reductions, and our balance grew to about 31 million. But we knew we had some debt service coming on with the issuance of the new debt out there. But when we're looking at it, the fund 2001 is really our just total general operating. That balance is made up of a lot of categorical carryover funds as well. Fiscal year 23 ended with 31 million of that. Of fund 2001, about 28, almost 29 million of that. Last year we projected to be down $7 million, 7.3 I think when we submitted the budget. So it would have theoretically taken that 28 million probably down to about 21 million and something. We actually ended the year almost at 24 million. Of that fund 2001 was about 22.2 million, and we're working on this year's budgeted amount as well. So we did make up a little ground, but we did pay some incentives out as well, so we were able to do that. So, but I think we ended up well compared to where we were kind of going. So, and we actually end up still being able to pay those incentives out to the staff. So as far as budget elements, this is what we're actually looking at. So you all may just see one number out there that we put out there, but each number has all these elements attached to it. So that's where it takes us so long to actually go through there. So this may not mean anything to you, but all these numbers at the bottom mean something to us when we look at it. So that first number there, just highlight this just to entertain y'all for a minute. I know Dr. Wright loves this type of stuff here, right? But that first number depicts that that's actually a teacher salary fund. It's Fund 1000. The 281 is called source of funds, so that tells me that it's ESA. When I look at the next four, it's telling me that it's a function code, that is early childhood. 80 was Rockefeller, 05 was the program code, and then finally the object code, and you can have multiple object codes there. It's gonna depict, you know, the actual account code, that's the salary code. So all those things have to be loaded up out there, so we worked quite a bit. So this is just the fund classification. We have different funds out there. 1, teacher salary fund. 2, operating. We have a building fund. It's 3, debt service fund. 4, our capital improvement dedicated is 5, and these 6 and 7 and 8 and 9. So that's all the stuff on that. So any questions on that before I jump out of that and look at a few details here?
You said you're gonna send us that?
I will, yes. And it'll be part of the other upload as well, but it'll have the new numbers for the current year budget too, but I will. I do want to show you, so I typically show you all this as well to kind of see historically kind of where we have been. But this kind of shows you the growth we were looking at. So we had some significant growth last year over our assessed value, almost 8%. So that was very, very good. If we look back over the past, I mean, I have a lot of years, so we actually, you can go quite a bit back there where we were looking at about 6% growth over those years, and then the market kind of fell out of real estate, and you can see where we didn't even have a percent, and we had actually negative in a few years, those reds. So recession on those, so. But we're here now, so we're looking at, you know, about 5.672%, so hopefully we can continue that on in the near future. As we go down this page here, I want to kind of just show you these here. So this is our foundation funding. It's going to drop about by $4 million, but a big portion of it is made up. If you have an increase in your actual local tax revenue, it offsets some of that $7,771 that we actually get from the state. But this is another factor here when our 3/4 ADM actually dropped. So like you saw the 1.9 that we actually received last year in decline in enrollments because we lost 500 students over that period of time. This past year we were down about 232, so that's where you see that about 900,000 of that decline in enrollment kind of kicking in. So we really have to stop this red here, so we need to make sure it's black or less red there, and we'll kind of look at some of those enrollments as well. When we go into enrollment, this is kind of, y'all have any questions on that? I guess I did skip one.
Question on the state foundation fund, that's how much the state foundation fund, that's how much the state gives per student as like a flat.
Yeah, that's how much is allocated per student. So if you see down here where I'm at now, so it's $7,771. Of that, the state portion that we actually get from the state times at ADM is $1,944, $1,945. Our local revenue actually picks up this, so it's an offset, it's a formula that's calculated. So if you're a charter school and you don't have a tax base, or you would actually get $7,771
From the state.
directly from the state. But if you have a local tax base out there, it's offset a portion of that. So as your tax revenue grows, that portion of the state actually decreases. So, and that's just on the foundation piece. Of course, we still get ESA, ELL, PD, and those other categorical funds.
But that's to meet the needs of those students.
Yeah, yeah.
What does ADM stand for again?
Average daily membership. So all your students that are actually enrolled at your school at that time, so they're gonna look at your first 3/4 averages and put that together, and it's always a year behind. So the new formula is actually proposed to look at your current enrollment. So all our formulas are typically looking at last year, so, yeah. Oh, you're good, though. Y'all ask as many questions you want. I don't have none but time on my hand tonight. Just kidding. All right.
No,
You
my
do?
my question is, now that's for last year, right? And so this year coming up with, but our enrollment was not as drastic. Our decrease was not as drastic as last year.
So they compare it, so the 500 was 2 years compared to the, about a year or so ago. So it's always a year behind.
Right.
So the decrease that you just, let me go back to that, sorry, let me show it. So this decrease here was based on your 23-24 as compared to your 22-23 year, the 232. And this was 2 years on further back, so our ADM for last year was 19,785.84. That doesn't include pre-K because they don't fund you on pre-K on this actual foundation funding. So that's our funding. It was based on 3/4 last year, but the funding is what we're going to be getting this year. So whatever our 3/4 average for this year is going to make our funding for next year, unless that funding formula changes. Did I lose you?
Not exactly, but I was trying to say, but there is a possibility that they could change our funding formula because of the LEARNS Act monies that are going into private schools and charters.
It's a possibility. The new funding piece is going, well, I won't say it's going, the proposals to really have a base and start adding weights based on those different demographics you have. Because right now we have all the different categorical fundings, the ELL, ESA, PD, ALE, and you have to actually code those, all that coding, you have to code them to specific expenditures. So I think the methodology behind it is to give the districts the money so they can spend it accordingly and not just trying to stick to those necessarily codes there and spend it, you know, on the best needs for the students. But that's kind of what I read into a portion of it, but we'll see as more information come out, I'll actually share it with you all.
They don't have the kind of programs we have, right?
What's that?
What you're saying?
This is the,
and the charters.
oh, you talking about charters? Yeah, I was just talking about the new funding formula. So yeah. As far as enrollment, so this is kind of what I look at. I have a lot of years of enrollment over here, so I can go for a long ways. So I keep these spreadsheets kind of forever, but this is kind of what we're looking at right now. Excuse me. As far as and we always look at our October 1st number because that's our official number, our funding number, based on enrollment. So, what's that? So
I'm just excited about the growth in pre-K there. I would like to note that for everyone.
Yep, yeah, it is. I think, was it from the task force? All right.
No, but it was from Ms. Esther Jones's amazing work. That's all I have to say there.
And we still have some work to do out there as well, because if you notice on pre-K, it was 1,700. We were running about 1,700, almost 1,800 at times. And of course, you saw what 2020 did. You dropped it less than 1,000, and we got some growth after the a little bit, during the pandemic, in 1,300, and that's significant, 180. And these aren't solid. I mean, I just pulled these as of Monday, so we do have some declines that are kind of showing on elementary. So the pre-K is kind of offsetting some of our declines here. Elementary is showing right now as compared to last October 1st down 253. Middle down 65 and high school down 18. So overall, when you combine pre-K with it, we're looking like we're down 195 right now, based on the last reports. Now this might have changed this week. We had some, I don't know. By the time I present the budget to you all, I have a little some updated numbers, but the official numbers won't be till October 10th, October 1st for cycle 2.
Mr. Bailey, would you, on that spreadsheet, would you go back to look at
Which year?
2014, 10 years ago?
Were you board president then or something?
No, sir. Well, actually,
You
yes,
were.
but that's,
You were.
but I wanted to, but I wanted to see what our total enrollment at that time.
Okay, yeah, we're about it. You can notice we've gone.
Yes.
So I started 25, 24, 24, 24. And some of that was due to the DSEG wind down as well, because we had the stipulated magnet schools. You had kids coming from North Little Rock and Pulaski County. So we knew when that wind down occurred, we were gonna lose those students, so, because transportation went away. So we at least lost 2,000 probably in those transition years.
Well, I just want to note that so in the last 10 or 11 years, that we have lost over 5,000 students.
Yeah, so it's.
And so
And prior to that was close to 26,000, so yeah, you're
Yeah.
about right, yeah.
So even more than that. So we have lost, excuse me, over 20% of our enrollment. So when we have to face very difficult budget decisions, and we have had to face, and before us, when the state was in control, when they wrestled with the number of schools we have, and do we have the schools, those are just horrible things that we have to decide, but that we are faced with in order to stay financially solvent. And we're hoping that we can, stabilize or even reverse that trend. But it's a remarkable thing that we've had to do in the last 10, 11 years. And, kudos to you and your staff and other leadership people who have kept us solvent during that time. But we have a lot of challenges ahead.
We do, yeah. We're the only district besides Jacksonville, North Pulaski, which they weren't part of, that haven't been in fiscal distress, so we're proud of that.
Yes, yeah, so thank you for that.
I thank all the staff. As far as ESA, this is just a calculation here. I will show you, this is kind of an FTE count we've looked at over the past, and I can kind of show you this as well, what we talked about, where we're employees, so 4,200. I mean, we've made some significant reductions to about 3,200 right now, so we're slightly down on certified. We still have about 46 vacancies when I ran this report today. We're up some on classified. We've been able to hire some security officers, some custodial, and bus drivers, but we have quite a few aides we're hiring for SPED as well, so our SPED population seems to be growing. So that's kind of where we are right now. This is the average cost of a teacher as well, so I'll show you this when we're doing calculations. We're talking about reductions of reducing any positions out there. So about the average teacher cost is about $86,000. So the average salary for a teacher in Little Rock is about $68,000, the carrying cost. You add all the other benefits on there, and this is kind of what we come up with. So, any questions? I think I had something else to show you all, and I'll sit down. Where am I? Welcome now. All right, so state aid notice. This is what we officially wait on typically before we even start doing any kind of projections out here. So every district actually gets this. It shows your true assessment out there. It shows your three-quarter average. This is where that three-quarter average comes from right here. It's going to give you a breakdown of all your categorical funding for the most part here. Only part that's not on there was that compensation reform. I don't think they have a line on that yet. We actually haven't received a commissioner memo on that one yet. But we do have the funds, $807,000. But just wanted to show you that for your information. This is what if it pulls up now, did it go blank on me? This is that comprehensive investment in student achievement piece that I shared with you all. And I just covered this shortly because, I mean, it's not in place now, but basically what they would be looking at, you can see it changed from prior year ADM to current year ADM. These are the multiple funding streams that we talked about, the foundation, different categorical and supplemental would go into one, basically single funding stream out there. So it'd probably be less coding for us as far as on the accounting side. And these are the different weights it would look at. So base funding plus student weights and direct funding and outcome funding. And if you all hadn't gotten a chance to read this, just check it out. I think I emailed it to you all on last week, I believe. But this is kind of how the breakout would be. You have a base, then you have student weights based on, I think, the demographics of the needs of the students, and then you have, I'm not sure how the direct is actually going to function. There are some other narratives in here, and then you have an outcome-based piece on that, so probably performance-based. So that could be good or bad, you know, for Little Rock. So we'll just kind of have to see how that comes about, and we'll stay abreast of, you know, any changes that, any documentation that come out. So, and it kind of talks about the base funding, what's all in that base funding here. If you hadn't actually looked at this, then it goes into our student weights. Students eligible for free and reduced. English language learners, SPED students, and that would be good. They need to put more weight on the special education because we spend a ton of money there and it's very expensive. So, student-based, other student-based weights. Talk about smaller districts, very small districts, so we wouldn't actually qualify in that category. Transportation, we might qualify a little bit on that. So, and then the direct funding piece here. This is the outcome piece here. Third grade students reading exceeding on ELA. So this is just for your information purposes. It doesn't affect anything that we're doing this fiscal year. So but if you didn't get that, I can resend it out to you again.
Quick question
Yes,
on
ma'am.
that. And I haven't been through a legislative session sitting on this board, but do we take positions on legislation? I mean, if this were to come forward, would we do that through the through AAEA, through School Board Association, et cetera, or do we do that individually as a district?
We have a legislative liaison on this board.
Right.
So,
Okay, that's kind of the way that happens, okay. I just wonder, because this could be, I mean, this is, I mean, I look at this and, I mean, the Lakeview case that established our current adequacy funding has been around for a really long time, and this could significantly upend things, I think,
Yeah, it could change
particularly
quite a
for
bit, yeah.
districts like us that are serving really high poverty numbers, and also as more kids and families take advantage of the education freedom accounts, the EFAs from Learns, I think that, you know, the services we as a public school still have to provide to students, even if they're in other schools in our district. And my understanding is like all the testing and some special eds type stuff is still our responsibility, if I'm not incorrect on that. And I don't know, it's scary to think about this, and I think that we should definitely be as involved as we can in the process of this. That's all. Because there's not more money to go around right now.
Just to comment, Ms. Strong, we in the past, we've had discussions about how that liaison will work, and we have, I think that it would probably behoove us to have some more discussion before this next legislative session. I think there was some proposal, and Mr. Nolan was here, about having that role to be able to be more nimble, to be able to respond when things come up, with consultation between the board president, the liaison, and the superintendent, and being able to speak. There was concerns that might not be, that wasn't going to speak well enough for the whole board, and so I think that, so there was this tension between being able to be responsive as things change, and also how do you consult with the whole board. And so I think that that's worth us thinking about again before the next legislative session, to see if we want to have a voice, and if so, how we're going to handle that.
And we'll keep you, I try to keep you abreast of any changes like that. Typically, it's either gonna be AAEA have a part on there. I know they have a superintendent's Zoom, and it's another legislative Zoom that I'm typically invited to as well, so we get some feedback, so. Well, that's all I have for tonight. So we're still working diligently to get everything in order and balance, and not to bring you any.
So you're expecting to have one in 2 weeks?
Yes, oh yeah, definitely, we have to.
But we'll have time to really look at it, right? Yeah, I know you've gone through it, but there are a lot of.
Yep. Give me a look. I'm gonna try. We're doing our best. Yep.
Do your best.
This one was a hard one, just because we just had so many moving parts as far as personnel, and based on last year, we didn't want to bring another one.
Thank you for your work on this.
Thank you. If y'all have any questions at any time, feel free to reach out to me. So, thank you.
all right, thank you, Chief Deputy. Next item on the agenda is our fall town hall discussions and announcements, if I'm correct.
Yep, that is correct. I'll make this as brief, but I want to make sure that all board members are clear on what the town halls, the format of the town halls are going to look like, and want to make sure that members of our public will know all the different ways that they will have, all the different opportunities that they will have to weigh in on these very important topics. So, as you should know, we will be implementing actually two activities to collect data from our stakeholders. One will be a survey That survey will probably go out tomorrow or early next week, and that survey will address topics, both the cell phone policy and our school calendar. So in that survey, it'll have information about the pros and cons of cell phone use. So they have pros and cons of a non-traditional calendar, and it'll ask some simple questions to help us generate information to know what do our stakeholders think or believe or support with regards to those two issues. And then the other mechanism that we will be collecting data will come from our town halls, and the first one actually starts next week, Tuesday, September the 17th. So what I wanted to do today was to make sure all of our board members understood the format and the flow for the town halls, and I'm going to ask Stephanie to be up here somewhere close just in case I miss something, so she can fill in those gaps. Stephanie and others have been the primary people working to pull this together, so we definitely appreciate her and her team's work. So the town halls are scheduled to be an hour and a half, 45 minutes-ish.
I thought it was an hour and 15.
Hour and 15 minutes,
Okay.
but an hour and a
Advertise that.
half because we did add an additional 15 minutes if the board member and or the city director wanted to share information or talk about some other topics. And that's not something that you have to do, but we just want to be able to provide the extra time. So,
What was that?
so
Let me have some clarity on
Yep.
that. What was that?
I'm sorry. I
just-
should have first said, look in your folders for this document. So it is all listed on there. It has fall listening tour town hall series at the top. And if you are listening or watching, you can go to our agenda online, and this attachment is on it, so you can follow along with us. So the town halls are scheduled to start at 6 o'clock, except for the one that is on Saturday, and that one starts at 10. 6 o'clock, we will start sharp, not 6:01, not 6:02, but 6 o'clock we are starting, with you or without you. So please be there on time. Couple minutes for welcome. The city director, if they are there, and the board member will welcome everyone and set the stage for the town hall. Pam is preparing some talking points that we will deliver to the board members that you may use. You don't have to, but if you wanted to use those talking points, we will have those for you. I and/or someone else will facilitate the next session from 6:05 to 6:25. We have prepared a 20-minute short, brief presentation about the strategic plan. It'll be very short and sweet. We just want people to be aware of what our priority outcomes, what we're trying to achieve, and to really hone in on those strategies that we are focusing on this school year. That will be the primary focus, but we will have the entire document available for people to see the whole comprehensive plan, but we're only focusing on those things that we're focusing on for this particular school year. And then for the cell phone, we'll have some information about, like I said, pros and cons of students using cell phones, the same thing for the school calendar options, and we will actually have an example calendar of what a traditional school year could look like next school year, and a example of what a non-traditional schedule will look like for the 25-26 school year, so that people will have a visual to be able to see and understand what that will look like. So after the presentation is over, we will break out into small groups, and in those small groups, there will be guiding questions, like 2 or 3 guiding questions. I believe if you look on the back of your page, those guiding questions are actually listed there. So, and we'll have somebody stationed at each small group to kind of make sure that people stay on topic. But we really, especially for the cell phones, we don't want to spend a lot of time on the how. What we really want to spend a lot of time on is ascertaining what do people believe about cell phone use. Should we restrict cell phone use, student use of cell phones in our school buildings, or should we not? That is the primary aim that we're looking, the primary data that we're looking to collect. And so those questions will help generate that discussion in the small groups, and then the small group will end with people actually voting. And we'll be able to capture how people vote on the cell phone issue and the school calendar issue will be the same thing. So we'll spend 15 minutes talking about the cell phones, and then we'll switch and spend the last 15 minutes discussing the calendar. And then we'll come back as a whole group session, and we'll have the small groups report out. We'll be able to see how folks voted. We'll be able to see how folks voted, and then if there are questions or key points that came up in the discussion, we'll be able to address those whole group. And then if the board member and or the city director who is there doesn't have anything else to add to it, then it'll be over. However, if the school board member wanted to talk about or share information about things that are outside of the issues that we're focusing on for the town hall, we have allocated 15 minutes for the board member to be able to have that time to do that. So I know Director Calloway already sent some information and people that she wanted to have there, and so she'll be able to use those 15 minutes however she so chooses.
So, Superintendent Wright, Dr.
Yes,
Wright.
yes, sir.
So, Zone 1, I know we are started at 6 p.m. and go to 7:15, but we have a second session for the Latino community.
That's correct. That's correct. Did we confirm that yet? Yes. Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah. Yeah. So we will add that to it as well. So for those of you who are listening, if you're still up with us, we will on the 19th after the first one, we will have another town hall specifically for our Spanish-speaking families
Starting at
Southwest.
7:16.
Yeah.
You ready? Awesome.
Any questions?
Director
comments?
Adams has-
Oh, all right.
Yeah, Dr. Wright, thank you for all this. Wanted to see what the vision was for after the board member would help welcome people in and then give whatever closing remarks that one chose. Is there a desired role for what the board member should be doing in the middle?
I would anticipate that you would be cycling through the small groups, listening to the discussions. Yeah, that's what I would foresee.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
I'd like to add some more to what Dr. Wright was saying, things that I was adding. I was considering inviting some of the school principals to come, and so that if anybody had any questions specifically about the programs that are available in their schools, like that will show like pre-K through high school. So that was the extra thing. So them, by them being there, the parents or whoever might be interested might be wanting to talk and meet those people. That's the extra I was doing.
And they have, I sent an email to all of them, and they have all confirmed.
Oh,
So
that's,
they will be-
isn't that wonderful?
Did you do that district-wide?
No, she was the only person.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that would be wonderful to invite principals from across the district, just to like let them know these are happening and that we'd all love them to be there. I mean,
Will do.
quick question, I have a few questions. Are we providing childcare and food at these?
So the only one that I know we had some preliminary conversations about doing childcare and food was for the Spanish-speaking families, because
Is this later?
I don't know. I think why was because I know when we've done those meetings before, we always have a lot of children that's present. And so we just wanted to make sure that the parents who were there
Yep.
could kind of focus and engage without necessarily.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you're only doing that at that one?
That's the only one that we have had conversations about. We still have
Okay.
time to plan.
I will just say generally as a mom of littles, like these things are hard in the evening. Like if I were gonna bring my kids to this or pay $50 for a babysitter or whatever, you know, I mean, these are hard. I mean, these are things that families have to kind of think about and plan for, and it can be expensive to do that. And we're at school building, or we're at Hall, I guess, for ours, which doesn't necessarily have a playground, but I just think that might be nice to at least have some snacks, some kid-friendly snacks, just a bowl of goldfish y'all or something. I mean, something. I just think about trying. I mean, I know it's ideal. I will not have my kids there if I'm facilitating this, but yeah, I just think that's nice. And when I don't know, one of the things I learned at the Clinton School is like give people food when you want them to come give you their opinions. And the other piece I wanted to what? It's the Clinton School. I know, as we're taking over the world. The other piece I just want to understand, if you're going to have a presentation, particularly on the cell phone piece, and I ask this because I do a lot of work in this space in my work with cell phones with the American Academy of Pediatrics, and I just want to understand the data that you're using to talk about pros and cons and the perspective, the evidence you're looking at. So that's all. I would like to see that maybe before the first one, if I can get a copy of the presentation y'all are planning to use, and making sure that we're thinking about the equity piece of cell phones for kids who, there are positive aspects of having cell phones for kids. And I know particularly right now with all the time with school shootings on our mind, I know that is a big thing I hear from people already in my zone about, is this concern? I mean, I don't know where I stand on this yet, but I know that safety versus the idea of having a cell phone free environment during the day to facilitate improved learning is really important, and it's a tension that we're going to have to figure out. And so I just want us to be sure on the evidence piece that you're looking at what is truly causation. There is causation and not just correlation for outcomes of having school phones around for kids during the school day. So
We will include that in the update that I send tomorrow, so
okay.
see the presentation.
That'd be awesome, thank you. One last question is I'm sorry, I know everybody wants to go home, but as I saw one of the things on here was considerations for the calendar piece, and I'm kind of in general a fan of the idea, I will say, of an alternative calendar. I think summer learning loss is real, and if we're going to be funded based on our outcomes, I think all the things we can put in place to help support kids' outcomes is great. That being said, I also know that we have a really strong summer care economy for families with kids under the age of 12 or whenever you stop sending your kids to summer care. And I don't know how that would adapt. And so I don't know if the district is looking to fill in some of those gaps when we have empty buildings. But I think we need to be able to think about that and the impact it would have on us if we would have paid or free options for families during a time when we wouldn't have, like, if we had a break in the middle of November for 2 weeks or something, there are not college kids to staff a camp during that time. So I just think we need to be thinking ahead about whether we are willing to fill that gap if we start to go down a path like that. So.
Yep. You'll notice that one of the questions for the calendar breakout session is around, we want folks to identify everything they could possibly think of that we will need to consider if we went on a non-traditional calendar, and that is one of the things.
Okay. I know I'm probably getting a little micromanagey here, and I'm not meaning to, but I just think it's really important. This is like a really important chance for us to gather some of this information from both. So thank you for this. I'm really excited about it. I want to talk about early childhood at mine, obviously. So, thank you.
Anything I left off, Stephanie?
No, only that the cell phone piece, we're just looking specifically at secondary schools is primarily.
It's what? Sorry.
The cell phone piece, we're looking specifically with secondary schools is where we are targeting the conversation. Yeah.
We got them in the elementaries too.
Yeah, $1,000 phones.
All right, thank you, Stephanie, Dr. Wright. We'll move on to 4.2, naming of the new West High School. Who's that?
I guess, Stephanie, come on back up. Especially if there's questions about the data that was a part of this item, she can address that. This is simply wanted to share with the board, and I want to be clear that we, as the administration, we're not advocating or super glued to any of these particular options, but we did want to provide the board with the results of the survey. And the results of the survey was I won't say kind of clearly, especially when we looked at the comments, some type of combination of Little Rock West or West Little Rock High School. But again, it is the board's decision in terms of what the name will be. We just wanted to provide you all with the data in our preliminary recommendation, but it's on you all.
Any questions?
I was like, Dr. Wright is looking at me because he knows.
I know she has something.
Okay, so I had this on my mind and could not find it way deep in the minutes. of when we named when we named Dr. Marion G. Lacey. We had 3 candidates of names at that time, and I remember feeling really torn because we had really good candidates, and we had 3 gentlemen come talk to us about a man named Milton Pitts Crenshaw, and I felt really like they were so moving, and he sounded like a wonderful human being, an awesome person, and I felt terrible that we did not have 2 places to be able to name Dr. Marion G. Lacey and after Mr. Crenshaw. And so I finally found it and found his name, and I printed out the sheet that the district gave us at the time, and then I left it on my desk at work. But I know we already did a survey with the public and everything, but I just would really love for us to consider that. He was the first African American in the U.S. to get a commercial pilot license. He was from Arkansas. He was part of the Tuskegee Airmen, had a pilot school, like, and Miss Calloway, you probably remember the gentleman that came that spoke for him.
I knew him.
And yeah, and so I just think, you know, we don't get very often an opportunity to name a new building, and I wanted us to just consider him as an option.
If I can say, I will say, I remember seeing that name a couple of times in the comments. It wasn't like an overwhelming, but I do remember seeing that name.
But people did.
Probably less than 5, but I remember seeing it.
But is it set in stone?
Nope, this is just what the data was from that survey.
Okay. And the reason being, I never liked the directions. Like, I thought Southwest should have had a name. But I left by that time. But at any rate, you're gonna have to look at the community as well. I would advocate for Mr. Crenshaw because I knew Mr. Crenshaw. Okay, but I also knew Barack Obama too. Okay.
So would that be something we could maybe consider a digital survey and a paper survey as we're doing these town halls, or?
Well, you could do that out in the area where they're gonna be. Yours.
I don't have a problem. You know, I knew Mr. Crenshaw. My dad graduated from Tuskegee, so Mr. Crenshaw and my dad were real close. So I don't have a problem with that, but you know, I would like the community to have an input on that too.
And I acknowledge, I think very plainly to Dr. Wright that my timing was very poor, but it wasn't going to stop me from making the request.
My suggestion would be if we did another survey to not have a write-in.
Yep, that we
Because
just
that
do
would be-
maybe
that would eliminate
those two,
list.
that and
maybe like,
I mean, I still have the bio thing the district
you
gave
could
us the first time we could
probably
put a
include
little,
something that
yeah.
the reasoning.
I would wonder if, you know, if, before we go through again, if we're gonna put a couple different options, or 2 or 3 options, I wonder if there might be some other nominees from the community, you know, that, you know, and if we ask, if we had it wide open without, you know, without options, but say, you know, what are some different ones, and maybe if we took, you know, some of the most popular nominees, you know, and to see, because there may be some other people, you know, who that community feels, if they want to do a name that they might feel connected to, that they might want to have in the consideration too, if we're going to open it up.
What do you have?
So I can go back and get all of the names, but the names that I included on the sheet here were ones that popped up like more than 10 times, like that in a write-in. So names that popped up were like specific people. Thurgood Marshall and General Wesley Clark were names that popped up at least 10 or more times. But there were other names that popped up less than that. Like I said, I remember Crenshaw, Barack Obama was one of them. I have the data. I can go back through and find the rest of the names. Because there were a lot of write-in comments.
No.
so we don't have a lot of time because we Mr. Bailey's not in here. If Mr. Bailey, if you're still in the building, if you can come back in, I believe when we spoke with construction people, they wanted or needed to know, I think I want to say by October-ish.
Yeah, there was a
because
date, October 20.
Was that just for the
24th or
colors?
It was for colors, it was for,
Because I think it's easier to pick the
Colors and
colors.
Yeah, I
Mascot?
was gonna say the colors.
Colors and mascot.
Colors and mascot were very,
mascots, yeah.
very clear.
Important.
yeah.
Yes.
And
What
so-
were they?
The colors and mascot were clear in terms of the Skyhawks and then the royal blue and
Same-
white, the same
same as
colors as Pinnacle View in the middle.
Oh, that would be, see, Crenshaw, Red Tail. You know what that is?
The, from the airplane.
Airplane.
So, how would you all want us to proceed? Because we did have an open-ended question on there that generated like hundreds of responses, but we only reported the ones, like she said, that showed up.
I mean, I feel like there was really good response on this, and I feel like going back to the drawing board is hard at this point, but the top one was you guys are on questions.
Ms. Bailey, was I correct when I stated that we needed to know the name, mascot, and colors by end of October? That's what I remember when we spoke with the construction folks.
23.
The 23rd.
I just remember it was October. I couldn't
23,
remember
yeah,
the-
we probably,
Okay.
I said October last year.
Oh.
So the name probably won't affect, but we really need to counter the colors and the mascot so they can start that. So that's what the architects need. So the name is not gonna be so much, but.
So just as a review, when you did the name, did we give options and also gave them a choice for write-in, or was it
Yeah.
pure options?
No, there were options, there were specific options, and then there was a write-in for anything else. And the write-in included options, or included name options, color options, mascot options. So people wrote in, you know, one or more or all,
And the options we provided them were,
Pinnacle View, Little Rock West, and it was a combination of Pinnacle View with the same mascot and colors, Little Rock with the same mascot and colors, or Pinnacle View with different mascot and colors,
That'd be
Little Rock.
junior and senior
with
high
different
school.
mascot.
yeah. I wonder, I don't know, Dr. Wright, it's just in the spirit of brainstorming, I wonder if you took those options, the naming only, the naming options that we gave them, and then looked at the write-in ones and took the most popular ones and then say, you know, these, and then did that again, you know, took the top 5 or whatever you did to say, you know, based on the feedback that we had and include those in. And we could also include Crenshaw if we wanted to say this is, you know, just because it's been suggested for another school that wasn't. But I wonder if we did that, because we'd be guided by them. But if I was somebody taking that survey, and if I were, you know, if I didn't want those 2 options and I wrote in another one, I might want a chance, you know, kind of with the final thing. Okay, these are the finalists. Now I get to choose.
We can do that.
Yes,
That's easier to
it'd
do.
be a quick one-question survey too, yeah.
Yeah.
I can have that.
Okay, that'd be great.
Thank you, guys.
All right, what,
Thank you, Director Wilson.
all right, moving on. So no policy, personnel, and legal. So, board items, resolutions, 6.1. Let's add to the agenda.
Yep, that's any topics that folks wanted to add to the agenda right now. We have on the agenda possibly the selection, name, colors for the mascot, but we're gonna take that off because we know we're gonna do another survey. Are we? Let me clarification. Now the colors and mascot was pretty definitive in terms of the.
There's no problem.
So can we move forward with the same colors as Pinnacle View and the same mascot?
Yeah.
So,
I think
okay.
we should vote on it, do you think, I mean,
I mean, we have to.
Yeah,
vote
you have
on
to
it.
vote on it, but-
But we're okay to vote at the
Yeah.
next
We're good
meeting.
to vote on
Yeah.
this, yeah.
All right, so we'll add that for, and then we are looking to have a draft for the multi-year contract plan for teachers. So we started having some internal conversations about what they may look like, and so we'll bring a draft. We'll bring a draft of that on the whenever that is. Yeah, 26th. We have the facility usage policy that we brought earlier, so this will be the second time for us to vote on it.
Okay.
And then we will have the board development proposal. So we had the Council of Great City Schools proposal, and then we had another one that I sent you guys that NSBA just came out with. And so I guess we want to have some discussions around those two and figure out what direction. So that's all I have that I remembered.
Security
Security? What type of security? Oh, the,
for meetings.
oh, gotcha. You want to tell everybody? I don't know if everybody knows what it is.
Okay. I suggest we have at least one uniform police officer during meetings, specifically board meetings, because in this day and time, you know, things have got a little different. And, you know, I've seen on other places further east where they attack board members and the board members attack each other. But if we have, that's not gonna happen here, but I think that it would be, since where we are and everything, I think we need to consider, y'all laugh at me. Okay. We need to consider that option of having at least one uniformed police officer in addition to the people that are already out there who are district people. So, where does that go? Okay, thank you. What do you all think?
We can talk about it. I have a couple things on my radar are as our early. I know I emailed Dr. Wright and Steph about this week, but our early childhood strategic plan included a couple of things that might need action before November open enrollment starts this year. I know we talked about accepting vouchers and adding that. I don't know if that requires board action, but it would be at taking vouchers for early childhood program, which would be new. And then we also talked about considering, but it doesn't have to be for this school year, but we could kind of socialize the idea during our town halls, potentially begin socializing this idea with the community of a sliding scale. I know we had over 900 responses to the survey we did as part of our early childhood strategic planning. And lots of people felt like they would be willing to consider or were willing to pay for on a sliding scale based on your income for early childhood within the district for pre-K 3 and 4. But our big goals in that plan, which have not been adopted yet by this board, I think we are waiting on somehow to incorporate it in the strategic plan, even though our task force has been like super ready to go since the end of April. But we are really ready. I don't want to miss the boat for a year on things because open enrollment begins for early childhood in late November. So I feel like action on some of those might need to happen in October. So I would look to the administration to let us know what you're ready for on that. But that was part of our plan, and I don't want to miss the boat. So maybe we can have an offline conversation, Dr. Wright. I'm happy to do that if that would help to kind of hone what we would need to have on the agenda. Or we could hold it till next month if we needed to vote on it in October. So,
Dr. Wright, if you'd also add, as an agenda item, the possible discipline of a public official as an agenda item, as opposed to an executive session item.
Sure.
I would love an update on where we are with lunch forms. And that may be an email thing we can do, but if there's anything we need to do to take action, I know it'll be coming up on October 1. So if there's anything we need to be doing to help promote or encourage that, it would be great to know where we stand. Ooh, one more thing. I know we've had a lot of emails about breakfast in the classroom, Dr. Bright, and I think Mr. Adams was on some of or we have both reached out. I think a constituent reached out to both of us. But breakfast in the classroom has changed this year at a lot of schools and is no longer being offered at most elementary schools particularly. It sounded like only Wakefield kept it, which has resulted in our meal counts going way down for the district for breakfast. So that might be something that it sounded like we might need to have some board action on changing that plan that was submitted from, I believe, is it Walker Hines?
Yep.
So.
We're already working on that, and so when it's ready to bring to the board,
Okay.
we will do that.
Okay, I'm not trying to get in your operations. I just want to make sure that we have it on our radar as a board
Yep.
to like approve anything that needs to be approved before it's resubmitted to the USDA or whomever. Because I don't want our kids being hungry during the day.
All right, anything else?
Busy time.
Agenda?
I have one other thing to just talk about. So I'm sorry, I know everybody's ready to go home. I just want to make everybody aware in this room, this is not for the board agenda item, this is more of a board comment, unless, if that's okay.
Can I move to that then?
Did we, I thought that's what you were, I thought you were about to close
I'm
this
getting
out.
ready to say
Okay.
board comments.
Board comments, this is a comment. Paused. Okay, so I can go.
Board comments.
Okay, I just wanted to make folks aware that the state of Arkansas is currently working to rewrite its laws around firearms in the state of Arkansas, and one of the things that the state is considering in this, they have had an interim study proposal, and one of the things they are considering is allowing firearms at school bus stops. And firearms at school bus stops and firearms at public pre-Ks. They only have it at K-12s that they are not allowed to be carried on campus. I, in my work hat, have been working on this a little bit, but I just want to note that, and it also includes a preemption clause that does not allow local entities to put in more restrictive or prohibitive policies than the state has. So I just want to note that for our district. I know community safety is something we all really care a lot about and work on. And I think open carry and concealed carry at school bus stops is pretty concerning to me. So I just wanted to put that out there in case anybody is advocacy minded as something that you might want to reach out to your lawmakers on.
The rationale.
I don't know that I can comment on that at this moment in time. So
But that's a thing.
I'm happy, I'm happy to share the draft legislation that's come out of the interim study proposal. It'll be heard during the 2025 legislative session, so. I just wanted to let everybody know that. I think it very much impacts our school, so that is my public comment for the tonight.
Important to add the data that is very much in my work and day-to-day, that guns are the leading cause of death for kids 10 to 14, and the second leading cause of death for 15 to 24? Is it 15 to 20?
Suicide. Yeah.
Suicide, you're right.
Suicide, but guns are the leading cause of death for children in the United States of America.
And September is Suicide Prevention Month. So if you don't know, there's a 911 crisis line for mental health. It is 988.
Yep.
You can call it, you can text it. They also have the National Suicide Hotline website that you can get on, and you can like chat with people on that. But 988, share that. We have resources at the Children's Hospital if you want magnets and posters and whatever. Like, I tell everybody, put it in a break room. Put it, like, you don't know who needs to see it. And check on your people.
Break down.
Yeah, thank you. This is board comment time?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Board comments.
Sorry.
Thank you. I just want to acknowledge, the past month has been really stressful with, as we have worked things out with Dr. Wright and the superintendent, from the resignation came out, on August 15th, and now it's September 12th. So it's just been, 4 really challenging weeks for everybody involved. And want to acknowledge that and appreciate everybody who has hung in there and also reached out and gave us feedback and support and input to Dr. Wright and to board members. I really also want to give I have a lot of gratitude for all the board members and to Dr. Wright for being willing to take steps back and think and talk and consider and think and do all the things that brought us to the place where we are tonight. And I'm really hopeful about where we are tonight and going forward in a very positive way together, and our intent really is to earn the public's confidence that we're going to be able to be an even better team going forward. So I wanted to say that.
Just one other thing, I love that. I just want to add that it has been a difficult time, and I'm hopeful that we can learn from this experience, that it can be an opportunity to really have a growth mindset that we are able to talk through things, that difficult things do happen sometimes. But when we're able to talk through them, we can come to resolve and we can move forward. So my hope is that that will reflect on the district and ensure that they gain the same capacity.
Okay, ditto, ditto. Any other board comments?
I don't want to talk.
All right, Chair will entertain